This is the Power Producers Podcast, where we are refining and redefining the sales game.
Rule number one is you have to believe in yourself. You're the only one who doesn't think you belong in this appointment. The prospect has already validated your existence by scheduling time with you. Get it through your head you belong here, go in there, crush it, and close the deal.
A place where sales professionals can come to learn from other sales professionals and thought leaders that have mastered their craft.
The difference between a good salesperson and a best-in-class salesperson is only 2 minutes. By spending an extra 2 minutes on what you might think is a mundane task in the sales game, you separate yourselves from the pack, you grow your book of business, you close more deals, and you retain your accounts.
As well as their peers who are still striving for perfection to achieve their why.
I have a wife and 4 kids. Failure is not an option.
Real sales professionals, real stories, real results.
It's no different than being a professional baseball player. You can't be a one-trick pony. You have to be a 5-tool player in order to succeed in this game.
This is the Power Producers Podcast, production redefined. Are you ready to feel the power?
Hey everybody, welcome to the Power Producers Podcast. We have got an awesome guest today, Mr. Dave Jackson from Arizona. Oh, Captain, my Captain, what's going on, brother?
Good morning, gents. Happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So we always start off so that people can get the background of who the person is that's on, and then I usually get all my questions from that. So why don't you just take a step down memory lane a little bit and tell everybody how you got into the insurance industry and kind of what you're doing now? Because if I'm not mistaken, you've got a couple of little revenue streams that you have surrounding your agency. Don't you guys do some travel stuff as well?
Yeah. So long history because I'm kind of old. Originally from Iowa. And right out of college, I started with AAA in Iowa. I was 11 years there. I spent a number of the years, my years there in corporate training and insurance administration. So that's how I got introduced to insurance, like right out of the gate. Eventually became an Allstate agent in Iowa, 6 years. Sold that back to the company because he had a vested interest. And then relocated to Omaha, Nebraska. Started a second Allstate agency there. Ended up selling that to an outside buyer, just 4 years. So a total of 10 years with Allstate. And floated around for a little bit. Went back AAA in Omaha for a little bit. Eventually ended up coming out to Arizona. That was 12 years ago. With a company that I was, for a short while, I was out of the industry, and they let me relocate to anywhere I wanted to, and I wanted warm weather. I was done with old man winter. So shortly after I got to Arizona, I decided to get back in the insurance industry, and I became a State Farm agent. So up to that point, captive side my entire career, pretty much. Except for I worked for a vendor for a couple of years, AMS vendor, for a couple of years in between. So anyway, State Farm, and I laugh because I tell this story every time somebody's willing to listen. So State Farm puts you on a kind of a 1-year probation. You go through 8 months of training, and you're on salary, and you open your office, and everything's good to go, and you sell like hotcakes, and because that's all I got to do is generate new business. Because I start from scratch. That's my fourth. Well, that would have been my third agency, but 4 agencies all started from scratch. I know, pretty nuts. And before the 1 year was up, State Farm said, "Yeah, we don't think this is going to work out." I was number 4 in the sales district of 35, in my area, and several districts in Phoenix. And so I said, "Fine by me. I'm going independent." So that's how I ended up on the independent side. Because you have number 4 in sales doesn't mean jack to them. You got to do things their way, sell life, sell bank, sell health, sell the shit out of everything and that they want you to. And if you don't, you're on the street. I mean, you're done. So I had an office lease that I had a clause in that if State Farm didn't continue, I could get out. But I decided to keep it and keep my independent agency here. So that kind of helped me out. It benefited me because my location didn't change. My phone number didn't change. My email didn't even change. So, even though I had a non-solicit for 1 year, I just kept answering the phone. And so my clientele for that I sold for a year kept coming back. So I retained a share of that business. So it started from scratch technically, but some of that business followed me. So not too long after I became, this is 7 years ago. And then about not even a year, within the first year, another independent friend of mine said, hey, I want you to join this group on Facebook. It's for insurance agents. You might grab a lead from somebody, relocating to Arizona, blah, blah, blah. I'm like I need that. So anyway, he added me, and it was a bunch of Allstate agents just passing leads around the country. But that's where it hit me. I'm like, wait a minute. Why don't we have at least something like this? Plus, I got a million questions. I've run agencies. This is not my first rodeo, but I got different kinds of questions. And, from the captive world, majority of them are generalists, not niche commercial folks or niche anything else. And so I decided to start this Facebook group. And we started with like 5 members. Steve Holly in the East Coast, he's the first member. I knew him from that Allstate group. So he joined. He's the very first member. You guys have had him on, and he's an awesome stand-up guy.
Yeah, funny enough, his episode just dropped this morning.
I saw that. It
was a good one too. He is, man. Good people.
Yep, real good people. And so if you ever hear me call him number 1, that's why. He was the very first member, other than me, as the founder of the group. So anyway, it didn't grow very fast at first. And I was like, hey, you guys, I have some questions. We need some more people. Add to your friends. So it started to grow a little bit. I don't know, in the first year, we might have had 100 members or something. Somebody finally said, let's have a meeting. So we put together what we call a business conference. It was on a Saturday. It was in Anaheim because more of our members are on the West Coast at that time. And so we met for one day. Everybody pitched in $30 to cover the lunch. And I presented, and a few others presented. Mike Stromso, Brandon Smith, Nick Ayers, Shane Eastman. We all presented during this workshop, had some roundtable, and everybody absolutely loved it. 27 people showed up, and everybody absolutely loved it. So from there, it took off. So the following year, we decided to hold more of a formal conference. 120 people showed up. We moved it around. It's always in January. San Antonio. Then we moved to Orlando, second year. Then we came back to Phoenix, then Vegas. Then this last January, I think you were in San Diego. And there were 857 attendees in San Diego and 92 exhibitors. And so turns out we're coming to your hometown. It was supposed to be in this coming January in Tampa. And COVID's put a wrench in those plans. So we postponed it. We're hoping for April, but who knows with the recent spikes and everything else. That's 6 months away, but who knows? And so in Tampa, as we planned it, there'll be over 1,000 attendees, 112 exhibitors, and it's become, as far as the events go, the largest owner type event or conference in our industry in just 6 years. So kind of proud of that. And so that's just a byproduct of the group. You guys are members of the group, and that's all about peers helping peers. Doesn't matter what it's about, anything to do with your agency. Hiring, producers, market searches. Oh my gosh, the list goes on and on. If there's something to do with an agency operation, it's probably been asked 100 times in different ways from different people in different locations. And, every question's slightly different. So sometimes the answer the same, sometimes they're different, but it's just people helping people. And when they come to our conferences, they get to meet the people that they've seen on most social media and have become friends with virtually. And now to shake hands, well, used to be able to shake hands and hug,
the old fist bump now.
And hug and, some of them kiss, the whole bit. We've had a few marriages, no joke. That's a true story. Few connections resulted in marriage, and so it's become a real cool deal. The other thing we did was we created a revenue stream, really more as a benefit for our members, because when you create a group, so what's today, Wednesday? Veterans Day. Probably next week, officially, I'll be posting that we'll hit the 7,000 member mark in our group. So in 6 years, so, a little over 1,000 members a year have been added. And so when you create a group like that, whether it's by accident, like I did it, or intentionally, turns out there's people who want access to your group. So who comes knocking? The industry vendors, the software guys and the hardware guys and everything else that has to do with an agency. So rather than just, not deal with that, we decided to create a group discount program. We call it a MVP, Member Vendor Partnership Program. So our vendors get a listing on our website. You go to IAOA.com, click on vendors. You'll see now we have about 112 of them, and they pay a subscription to be listed on the website. And we provide them with a webinar once a year. We promote their webinars, and our members then get discounts because they're an IAOA member, and it's a win-win for everybody. So.
Yeah, absolutely. It's amazing too, because Facebook groups have changed dramatically over the years. It used to be that you could accomplish almost the exact same thing you can do with the group with a fan page. And then Zuckerberg decided it was time to change the algorithm and you couldn't see everything that was posted anymore. So anybody who had any kind of an audience or a following had to convert over to the group format. And it's nice because the difference is with the group, you can have the files, that you can store in there for different templates or questions that are asked repeatedly, like, are you going to be open on Veterans Day? I saw that one start leaking out.
We get that for every holiday, yeah.
Yeah, earlier in the week. And I'm like, you're asking on Monday, Veterans Day is Wednesday. This is probably something that should have been addressed a couple weeks back at least. But, it's a great experience. And I mean, I have to tell you, man, having moderated large Facebook populations before, I have to take my hat off to you guys, because having managed Facebook populations in the past, in a prior life, I had a group that I managed. It was about 55,000 members. And I know I know what it looks like, man. I mean, it's nonstop. Even we grew.
Is that big. Your Stargate page?
Yeah. We grew pretty quick, but I mean, even it doesn't matter. If you've got 200 people in there, you've got personalities to manage and, group rules that you have to administer. And you guys do a really, really good job of that. I don't see anyhow too much stuff that goes back and forth. And I think that also speaks to the group itself, because we want to maintain some semblance of professionalism and intended purpose for the group, for what it was originally founded for. And I can tell you, I do everything I can to try and help people in there. And I've also been helped in there. And that's one of the reasons why. So if I'm going to plug anything for IAOA, one of the things that I would tell anybody listening to this that is a member, if you have not participated in the free mentorship program that is a part of IAOA, and you have questions or you want somebody to hold you accountable or help you push your game to the next level, you should sign up for that, because I have made some incredible friendships with people that I've been given the pleasure and the responsibility of mentoring in my involvement in that. And it's I laugh sometimes because some of them are kind of like stray cats. Once I fed them, they keep coming back for more. And even though the mentorship's over, I've got standing calls with 3 or 4 people for 30 minutes to an hour every week that I've just continued to talk, because we've become good friends. And over time, I'll share things that are, instead of it being more of a mentorship, mentor-mentee relationship, I'm sharing stuff that we're going through in our agency, and you become good friends with peers. And I think that's one of the unique things that is the glue that holds the whole thing together, is the fact that you guys give us opportunities to interact like that. I mean, that doesn't even count all of the masterminds that have spun off of IAOA and the other things that people have done as a result. So, kudos to you for coming up with an accidental idea, and for all the stuff that you guys have done to sort of foster that growth over the years, because I know that it's an invaluable asset to nearly every member that's in there. especially those that are contributing and participating on a regular basis.
Yeah, appreciate it. Thanks for bringing up the mentorship feature. That's actually nothing we even do. That's a Facebook feature for groups. And just so people who are listening didn't know, you can go to either mobile or desktop, and there's a mentorship button. You just press it, basically sign up with 10 seconds, and Facebook pairs you up, or now they let you pair up with who you want. I used to be the person to assign mentee, mentor, and so I had to do. Yeah, for mentorship, if you're an existing member of IAOA and you want to get involved in the mentorship program, like David said, it's invaluable. Oh my gosh, I have mentored dozens probably, and mostly all newer agents because I'm an old fart. But I have a little bit of wisdom I like to impart. I would say, I've fourth agency, I've learned a few things, right? I've made a million mistakes, so I can tell you, don't do that, don't do this. Or maybe, give that a try, and anywhere in between. And everybody's got a unique situation. So it's the mentorship program for me is one of the coolest things. It really is, because your veteran guys get to help the younger folks, and the younger folks impart fresh ideas, and it all just works, and that's why I say,
I think that's a big thing, man. That's a huge deal, because especially if you have younger people that are coming from a different generation. I don't know how old you are. I know that I'm going to be 50 in a couple of years. So that's
62.
Oh, wow. Okay. So you're probably one generation ahead of me for all practical purposes.
6'2".
15 years.
I'm retiring in 2 years.
You're 15 years older than I am. So in West Virginia, you technically could be my father. I lived there, so I can say that. But anyhow, one of the things I think that the more seasoned agents need to consider is listening to what the younger people have to say too. I mean, just their perspective on things, because I think that we are in an industry by and large that does not progress in its metamorphosis into what it will be as quickly as some others. And so if we slow down and listen to some of those fresh ideas, it'll help us trend along with all of the other segments of industry. That's a huge deal. One thing I would tell you too is, I mean, your perspective is invaluable, because I think it looks like there are a lot of people, and maybe it's just because I haven't been around people who have migrated from the captive arena that much, but it seems like over the course of just the time that I've been involved in IAOA, that there has been a massive influx of people leaving captives to open independent agencies. And we see it with the people that we work with in Killing Commercial. There's people that Allstate farmers just selling their agencies and saying, I'm done. I'm fed up with it. I'm ready to go do something completely different. And I want to do something in the middle, like with us, they're talking to us because of middle market commercial. They want to run so far away from what they've always known. I have to believe that's a little bit overwhelming. You leave a captive, there are rules. You come to the independent side, the only rules there are the ones that the state enforces against you. Otherwise, you don't have any, there's no structure, no real anything. So what was that migration like for you?
Well, see, and that's why I hate to keep jumping back to IAOA. That's why it was so important for me to found it, because selfishly, coming from the captive world, I wanted to get new questions answered. It's an agency, but there's a whole series of different types of questions to running an independent agency, and there is a captive. So selflessly, that's one of the reasons why it got created, because I needed some of my questions answered. But here's what I'll tell you of what I've learned, because I've been around since the pre-internet dawn, pre-internet age, when carriers did things, on 3-carbon form paper applications and key punch cards, in the accounting department. Life looked a lot different. Mainframes in, climate control computer rooms, all that. No PCs, none of that. So I started in 79 with AAA in Iowa. So here's what I see in the industry, if you guys don't mind me imparting some of my views, because I've seen a bit. 41 years, younger guys oh my gosh, we need them. We need them. There's a new generation, baby boomers are ousting, getting ready to retire, selling agencies left and right, all-time high, right? And the newer guys are coming in and getting their feet wet as independents, some coming from the captive side, a large number of them. Others started from scratch, others, coming through independent agencies themselves or family owned or whatever. And most of them only know the internet phase of the business. You have to understand, almost all of the insurance companies you're working with started before the internet ever came around. So talk about, everybody considers us a conservative industry. It's conservative for a reason. And so are most older industries, insurance being one of them. And insurance is pretty vast, trillions of dollars. So newer guys want to embrace technology, bless their heart, and they get frustrated when carriers don't come along and, get on the bandwagon as well. And you're just going to have to be patient with that whole process because they're slow to move. I've seen them when there's no computers around. We did everything on paper, and that wasn't that long ago. 25 years is all. So in the last 25 years, it's been a huge adoption. Some carriers are better than others. Some are slow. When I was State Farm, no joke, 7 years ago, I worked on a DOS-based system with State Farm, the largest insurance carrier in the United States.
It's fantastic.
It's called NECHO, NECHO. I forget what that stands for, but it was DOS-based 7 years ago. Isn't that unbelievable? So being in this industry takes a ton of patience. A lot of frustration. Data is a huge catchphrase, throw it around. Agents need to own data, and they'll be more efficient and have more invested. All that. I take all that with a grain of salt. Everybody wants to jump on board data. I think I hear people bragging about their tech stack, right? And I just laugh. I'm like, oh my gosh. I used to do business, meeting people face to face in person. We don't do that anymore, especially this year, less and less. So it's just the way where the industry has come from. So don't expect it to change overnight. I guess one thing I can say, it's a slow process. That slow process frustrates a lot of people. They want it to move a whole lot faster. Your 30-somethings, your 20-somethings, they're ready to go. They're app-based. Everything's app. Let's move. And I don't want to talk to people. I want them to do things my way, and they want to do things their way. And it doesn't always mean talking to people. But, in the end, we're humans still, every one of us, even our clientele, even our underwriters. And, everybody knows underwriters suck. But what it still boils down to is human interaction at some point, somehow, some way. Probably more so on the commercial side than it does on the personal side. Personal wants to be so transactional and so virtual, and don't talk to me. I have a phone, but I don't want it to ring. That's kind of the attitude. So just patience, people. Just have a little patience. Are we going to get to where you want to be? I'm talking to the 20 and 30 somethings. I don't know. That's another 25 years down the road for them. I don't know. I'll be out of the industry by then. But it probably won't, my guess is it probably won't move at the speed that you're looking for. So that, again, could frustrate you. So maybe this is the industry for you. Maybe it's not. I don't know. You'll figure that out. But a lot of change, technology obviously is a huge part of it. And here we are on a podcast. How long ago did we even not have podcasts? Probably 10 years ago. So they weren't even heard of. So what's going to happen in the next 5 or 10 years? Don't know. I'm not a prognosticator. I just know what I've seen in the past. I know the insurance industry as an overall industry moves very slowly. So that's why we're termed conservative, because we just don't move super firm. There's insurtech firms. Yeah, there's that arm of those type of guys that want to reinvent and what's the word? I always what's the word? I always look like an idiot when I try to drum up this. They want to, mix things up. What's the word I'm looking for?
You got me, man.
I'm
We're
stunned.
right there on the same page.
Hold on, Google, help me out. Not interrupt, but
Disruption.
disruption. Geez, I don't even. Yes, disruption. They want to be a disruptor.
Not disruptors on here right now.
No.
Yeah, I know. But I that's another one that gets thrown around a lot, right? Disruption, and our industry is prime disruption, just like the cab industry was. And Uber and Lyft, they came in. I get it, but is Lemonade and all the others going to take over? Maybe, but it's going to be a lot slower move. You're not going to have an Uber or Lemonade come in and in 5 years just change the whole world, in the insurance world. I don't see that happening. So
no,
I
think the thing that's cool about our industry is that it is moving, in a technological direction, but you still have the ability to toggle back and forth. Like, what's your fallback position if technology doesn't work? We just go meet with people in person again. You do business the way that we've always done it. So it's not like we are forced to do that. I think that people are coming in from other industries with fresh ideas and they want to try and push that envelope. But there is no real downside to that. Okay, maybe we get more efficient, maybe we get better technology. If not, a lot of people have made a good living doing the business the way it's always been done in the insurance industry. So it's not like that stuff is necessary. I'm not saying that I don't agree with some of the technological advances that we've made, but it's not like we have to do it for the industry to survive to a certain degree. That being said, I am one of the people that thinks big data is going to play a huge role in what's going on. I'm not one of the tinfoil hat conspiracy wearing people that are so worried about controlling my own, but I do believe people like Amazon and Google and Uber and all of them that have access to pretty much anything and everything they want to know about anybody will figure out a way to enter the space, and they will figure out a way to automate it, and that will appeal to a certain subset of the population. That being said, there's a certain subset of the population that's never going to leave an insurance agency where they need to have that one-on-one contact, especially if they've been through a claim.
So I can see that happening more so for the personal line side of things, where it is a more transactional situation. But if you're a business and a business owner and you're wanting to make sure that you're adequately covered and that there's no holes and you're not going to run into any issues, I don't think that you're just going to up and purchase, at least in my opinion, just buy insurance policies through Amazon and Google without having any type of real guidance or conversation with an actual insurance agent.
Or what happens when there's a wrinkle? Like, I went out to visit a client this morning because we're disputing the workers' comp audit, came back with $17,000 in additional premium. I solved the problem in literally 2.5 minutes, but I had to be sitting across from them to get the information and do it. That wouldn't have been.
And that's kind of what I'm saying. Exactly. That's not going to happen with just clicking a few buttons when you're checking out on Amazon or Google, No,
and I heard Scott Howell say something one time on the Insurance Guys podcast as they were getting ready to have, it may have been one of the first hurricanes hit of the multitude of hurricanes that have hit the Panhandle, Louisiana, Gulf Coast area this year. And that's where insurance agents are made, is when the claims happen. And I think that if you've ever had a client that has had a claim issue and you've gotten them through that and helped them through what in most cases is the worst thing that's ever happened to them, they're not going to buy their insurance from a computer because a computer's not going to be able to get that done.
Right.
Well, if you've ever stood in a person's front door with a check on the day their house is on fire and you have a check to hand them and they're crying on your shoulder, you'll know why you're in the business. And there's nothing more. So here's what I'll say about Google and Amazon. So, they've been poking at our industry, right? Google tried to enter and, they found out it's maybe not our cup of tea. Amazon's now one of the more recent players. These are big dudes, right? Facebook, maybe at some point. All these big data dudes, they're going to try. Don't get me wrong. It's kind of like, you guys watch Yellowstone with Kevin Costner? It's kind of like that. Anyway, so he's this big landowner in Montana, and he's got all these enemies trying to poke at him taking his land away. And it's kind of like the insurance industry is the same way. And you got these outside tech guys like Amazon, and they're poking, and they're trying to wiggle their way in. They'll try, and they may be successful. But here's what I'll say to the agency force. At some point, sometime, you're right, a claim gets to be paid. All you have to do is know how to create your relationship with your clientele, whatever that looks like. It can be face-to-face handshake with an audit review, or it can be an email, or it can be texting, or it can be any way you want to form that relationship. As long as your client's good with it and you retain them as a client, more power to you. Do it your way, do it the way they want it to be, and everybody gets along, and it works.
Yeah, I think one of the things that I see people in the agency world where they're a little bit short-sighted is we want people to do everything the way we want it to be done. And I understand that there are rules inside of the agency world, but in generally speaking, sometimes you have to meet people where they want to be met to get that information from you, to get to receive it. So for me, I struggle a lot with technology. Even though we have a ton of it in the agency, it's difficult for me to do a video proposal because I'm used to putting on the suit and tie and shaking somebody's hand and thanking them for giving me the money and looking them in the eye, and Kyle's quite a bit younger than I am, but he's kind of an old soul at heart for all practical purposes. And that's the fiber that we've been woven from. It's been a constant mental battle for me personally to know, you know what, that other person would actually prefer me not come there because they don't want me to intrude on their day. Doesn't mean they don't like me. It just means there's a more efficient way, and that's the way they would prefer us to do business. Yeah. So I have to consciously do that. But that goes back to knowing your clients and knowing what their preferences are, what they want, and how you can best relate to them. And the easy way to do that is ask.
Until 7 years ago, prior to that, all those years on the captive side, I never sent one text to a client. We didn't do it. But since then, I'm like, we do 10,000 a year. And so that's just technology that our agency has embraced. Because why? Our clientele say that's how they want to communicate. And they just do all day long. They do. So fine by me. And we got a system that allows us to easily do it. Saves every bit of it, so we retain all that information for an E&O standpoint, and I don't mind it one bit. I'm a texting fiend, so.
Well, I'll tell you, man, it blows my mind because it actually catches me off guard. We have texting capabilities inside the agency. It integrates with our CRM, which is HubSpot, so everything is captured and retained, but what blows me away is when it's somebody that I've gone back and forth with over text to get a deal done. 2 months later, I just get a random text from that app on my phone, and it's my client asking me a question. And if I'm not paying attention, I'd completely miss it because I'm not getting a text from that app because it doesn't come through the texting portion of my phone. It comes through Sakari, which is the third-party app we've used to integrate with HubSpot. So I got to be on my game, man, and make sure that I'm constantly checking my phone notifications because some of the people, that's how they're going to reach out to me, period.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Well, we use a different system where I'm on Easy Links, and we get notified via email. So, I mean, emails, you're looking at that 100%. So you don't miss it very often.
That's what we had to do. I had to have our programmer go in and create a task inside HubSpot so that when that text would come through, the task would alert me via email that I had a text I needed to look at just to get the fail safe to make sure that I didn't miss it. But it's crazy. I didn't use text until a year ago, year and a half ago.
Wow, that's cool.
And now we've integrated. And again, with our average clientele in our agency, that's not really something that's prevalent, but with homeowners, now that we have personal lines and we've launched that is a good way to follow up, and it's a good way to be able to, give quick instructions and everything. And people tend to prefer that. So we're learning to communicate in ways we haven't in the past.
Yeah. Personal lines, they'll do that because it's so much more transactional and commercial. So it's going to generate more contact opportunities between your clients. So you'll definitely see a good use for it. If your clientele are comfortable with it. And I wouldn't be surprised if they are, because now with the mobile devices we have and the ease of use with those, everybody's got one in their car. That's why there's, driving apps, right, for Snapshot and all that. And so because those devices are in everybody's hand, follows them everywhere. It's just a way of life. Some days I don't like it, and I'd rather unplug. Other days I'm like, gosh, how would I get along without it? And, that's technology. It just keeps evolving, and we evolve with it, or we don't, and that's fine. However anybody wants to move along at their pace.
So I'm curious, aside from State Farm kicking you to the curb for, fourth place not being good enough.
Right.
You were in the captive arena for years before that. Was there other things that led into that in terms of you leaving and going independent? Were there other factors that, kind of happened along the way where it was just like, you know what, I'm going to do this and the timing is just right?
Yeah, great question. I was tempted before, after each Allstate agency, and the biggest thing is market access. They only write what they want to write. They don't write this broad, like an independent has access to so many companies with a broad appetite. Their appetite's very narrow. Allstate, State Farm, those are the only two I was with, twice with Allstate. But Farmers, American Family, Liberty Mutual, all of them, the captives are pretty much the same. They might offer a little bit of brokerage, access outside of what they do, but what they do is pretty limited. So it frustrates you. You lose clients because you can't write this one piece of business that this client has. And that just frustrates you to no end. And so you lose out to a broker or some other carrier that can do it because you couldn't write one piece of accommodation business. And that just burns you to no end. So that's number one by far. It's like, I just need to be able to write a wave runner. That's all I need. It's not a big one. It's a little bitty $200. But if you can't let me do that, the whole household leaves. And it's,
right.
So that's frustrating. That was a big one. The deal with State Farm is they have 6 different product lines that they need you to sell. They're into bank. They're into mortgage. They're into health. They're into, of course, personal and some commercial. And if you don't sell them all, they have this hugely complicated scorecard, they call it, where you have to score well enough in each category. If you don't, including life, that's a big one. And if you don't, it doesn't matter if you're number 4 in the district and 1. No, their number 1 product line, as you can imagine, is auto. Mother Mutual leads with auto. Everything else comes behind it. So if you can sell auto, and that's what I was number 4 in, you're a hero. But if you're not ranking in the other categories, you get the boot. They don't care. So you got to do things their way. And I was just too much of a rebel. I admit it now. I didn't want to admit it then, but I do now. I was too much of a rebel. I was same with Allstate, but I just put up with them. But so I was much more suited for the independent side. I just didn't jump over quick enough. I should have done it 30 years ago. But there's probably thousands of independents now who can tell us some of their story. Probably thousands of them.
What would you say the biggest surprise has been to you coming over to the independent side from being captive? I'm sure there's things you expected, but there had to be some things that caught you off guard too. What do you think the biggest surprise was or has been?
Nobody's ever asked me that one. Let me think for a second. Biggest surprise on the independent side. I wasn't surprised at comparative raters and management systems, technology that way. I wasn't surprised at that. I wasn't surprised at carriers and their appetites and how they want to do business. I wasn't surprised at that. That's unbelievable. I wasn't too surprised. I had my eyes pretty wide open. I had been kind of keeping an eye on that side of it for a while, even before State Farm. Not that I knew it inside and out, but I always had that in mind. So when the time came, I had a short period of time to react. I had 45 days before when they notified me, and I had to shut down my office. So, I mean, it only took me probably 2 hours to make the decision that I was going independent. But I didn't have any major surprises. That was good. That was a good thing. But probably the biggest thing, my biggest surprise was being able to satisfy more than one mouth, as far in terms of carriers. Now I've got multiple mouths to feed. And so learning all the ways that they do business, and none of them do it the same. They're all different in some aspect. And so you just got to learn all those different aspects. I learned what RoboForm was. Didn't need that before. I do now because I have 100 different passwords to save. So it was just having that, broad family and mouths to feed rather than just one, because that's all you had before. So that was probably the biggest adjustment. I don't know if it was a surprise, but probably the biggest adjustment. And that was the area where I needed help from my peers and getting my questions answered. There's a lot of aspects of running an agency, whether you're captive or independent, that are the same. And then there's a good share of them that are different because of the carrier situation. You're just dealing with so many more.
What's the mix of your agency now? I mean, are you 100% personal lines? Do you do any?
No, I'm more like about 80-20, 80 personal. The 20, I have a couple of commercial niches. The 20% that we do right is from a couple of small niches, and then pretty much accommodation business, from our personal lines clients. One of them that I started was about 3 or 4 years ago, and that's aviation. I love aviation. I started with drones. If you even go to my website, our agency website, you'll see a page there that talks about how to get drone coverage. And we just switched to a high-tech broker this year, which is really cool. I'm super excited. And it's kind of a self-serve, If you have questions, great, but you can load your shopping cart and buy your policy today without me ever talking to you. So, and it's a great coverage.
I'm interested in that a little bit. So who's buying that from you? Companies, homeowners that have drones, or a combination, all of the above?
No, homeowners who have drones, they're hobbyists. They don't need insurance for the most part. If they do want it, that's fine. I usually tell them to go buy a membership from this group that is a hobbyist membership association. And along with that membership for like $80 a year, you get $1 million liability policy for drones. So that's what I tell hobbyists to do. I don't get involved in that. That's $80 a year. You can't make any money there. So I deal with primarily photographers, surveyors, a lot of surveyors, and there's photographers will do video work, lots of video. And then realtors, if they're big enough, they'll do their drone flyovers for their homes they're looking to list. And so those are some of the bigger ones that I do. And those premiums are more like, they're not huge. They're not middle market, obviously. They're more in the 1,000 to 2,000 range. But
well, here's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking there's probably a lot of insurance agents out there that think they're hobbyists, but they're not, because they're doing roof inspections and all kinds of other stuff using drones. I'm one of them. I've just bought a brand new Mavic 2 that's sitting still in the box. I was asking the question for selfish reasons because I don't want to let that thing loose, especially if my youngest son can get his hands on it. Ethan,
where I was going with that.
Yeah,
man.
I knew as soon as I saw your face, I knew exactly what you were thinking. But I mean, I know what I'm going to do. And I mean, if I'm using this thing for YouTube videos that are promoting my business, or I'm using it for loss control, or, just checking out for hazards on properties and things in places where I might not be able to get or be willing to go, i.e. the roof, I need coverage for that, man. So I think that you've probably got a huge market of people that are listening to this podcast that need to go to your website and check out your drone coverage.
They can either do that, or there are a few carriers. Hartford's one of them. If you've got your GL with Hartford, they'll do an add-on for specifically for drone coverage. That'll cover an agency. I have my personal GL through my agency with Hartford. And if I needed it, I don't run a drone. But if I needed it, I would add that on. So that's one good place to get it without a whole lot of effort. And but if you just want a standalone policy, I have a relationship as I'm a retailer for a wholesale broker, and they allow me to offer their products, and it's all web-based. It's all shopping cart. I don't get involved. It's non-transactional for me. So they just look it's so easy. It's a single limit liability policy. It's like an umbrella, What do you need? 1 million or 2 million? And then, okay, sign me up and fill in a few fields and you're done. So
with the Hartford, are there limitations in terms of classes of business that they'll let fly with that, or are they?
So the class of business comes into the base policy, right?
Right.
I'm an office, right? Office and insurance office, medical.
Sure.
A realtor could be that same way. So the typical uses, they're going to cover them.
Okay.
It's only when you get into bigger industrial stuff. And I've got
which they're probably not going to write anyhow. So.
Right. So I have the largest UAS, unmanned aerial systems is what they're called, or UAVs. I have the biggest retailer in Phoenix. They sell drones to the public, and they pump out about $20 million a year selling drones. So I have their GL, their property, and they were good until it was super simple writing them until about a year ago or two, maybe. They decided we want to allow our clients to take one out in the parking lot and just fly it around as a test run. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's a whole different deal now, guys. So we had to find how to figure out how to do that. Because it's not a rental program, it's just a test drive, but have you ever seen a video of a drone injuring a human being? It's not a pretty video to watch. I'm telling you right now. If a drone ever hurt somebody, you could be in a major world of hurt. You could have a permanent injury and a lawsuit that probably doesn't end. So yeah, there's risk out there. So to have guys that know their product, right? They're a retailer selling a lot of drones, and they know it, but they're actually going to hand the controls over to maybe a totally inexperienced operator. And what's he do? He crashes it into a car or, into a human's the worst part. Well, they're not going to be over crowds, luckily, but still, it's just too much of a risk, for your normal GL to handle. So got to get that taken care of.
Yeah, I've seen some crazy stuff on the commercial side too. So I have a client from my past that has since sold their operation, but they manufactured the clamshell containers that blueberries and strawberries and all of that stuff go into to be sold at the grocery store. And so, we're in the strawberry capital of the East Coast here. Plant City's like 10 minutes from my house. And their deal was they wanted to find a value add that they could give to these farmers so that the farmers would use them to manufacture the plastics for them. So they went out. I'll never forget this. I was at a lunch meeting with the CFO, and he's like, oh, by the way, we bought a drone, and it's got $100,000 camera attached to it. And I'm like, what? Hold on, time out. I don't even know that I'd trust you guys walking around with $100,000 camera, let alone attaching it to a drone. But what they did was they would take the drone and they would fly it over the crops, and they would be able to identify areas that might have some disease or insect issues, or perhaps the irrigation wasn't working properly. And these are areas that they might not see if they were on the ground trying to just cover everything. And so they would go out, they'd fly their drone, and then they would come back and they'd give that footage to the farmers. And that was the value add. They didn't charge them anything at all for it. If they were their client and they bought their clamshell containers from them, they would let them they would provide them with all of these drone reports on an annual basis so that their yield on their crops was that much better. And they actually drove profitability for the farmers and helped themselves keep and retain business because nobody else had come up with that. So, I mean, I thought that was a pretty ingenious way to use it. We've seen it done in loss control and all of that right now because, of roofs and all of the other stuff that we need to look at on buildings down here, specifically if it's like an AC unit that's on a commercial building or something like that. I don't know if you've ever been on the roof of a building in Tampa in July, but it's not altogether different than being on the roof of a building in Phoenix in July.
I live in Phoenix, believe me. Yeah. If I wanted to like burn my soles of my feet, I would go do that, but I don't do that.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely nuts. But I mean, I do think that that's one way that we can use technology in the industry to differentiate ourselves. I just started using video for a lot of stuff, not just drone based, but even doing videos of loss control visits that you can turn around and share with a client after the fact with actual, video proof, of what's going on and issues that are happening.
See these cords, bro? Get these cords off the ground.
Hey, I had one. I was on record with the cords, and 2 days later, somebody tripped over the cords. It was the exact same cords.
It's always the cords.
Always. It's always the cords. Well, let me ask you this. I mean, you had another niche besides drones. What else do you have from a niche market standpoint aside from that? Because that's an interesting one to me, man. I'll send anybody I know that needs the insurance your way.
Yep. That was the primary one. The other ones were way more secondary. I actually bought an agency, acquired an agency as an independent, and that took us into the manufactured home market, primarily in the city of Mesa. So, obviously, we're one of the snowbird capitals of the U.S. and Mesa is a hotbed for secondary homes for the Northerners and Canadians. And so there's a ton of those sitting out there. There's an agency in Mesa who is probably 90% that market, and they dominate. So in order to break into that is a little tricky, but this agency I acquired had a book of that business. So we learned that business really quick. It's not super difficult, but we had to find a better market in order to keep from this other agency from snarfing it all up, because the prior owner probably needed some help with it. So we shored that up and got a better market for it, and it's thriving now. So we do some of that primarily in the East Valley here that's close to us.
Good deal. Yeah, I mean, we don't deal with any of that, but I know that the people who have that niche down here absolutely crush it, because there's just not a lot of people that are going to write manufactured homes in Florida. They have a tendency of relocating zip codes when the wind blows. So not too many carriers want to get on it, but the ones who do just seem to absolutely dominate. It's interesting, man, that the drone thing is an automated process, because we've done some stuff in our agency too with quote bind issue things where we can just put some AdSense behind or AdWords behind it, drive people to a landing page. And we've done that with wedding insurance. We've done it with martial arts studios. We've done it with CrossFit and fitness studios. And they're not things that would be huge revenue generators for the agency. So I don't want to invest any time into them. But what they do make is for nice mailbox money.
Yeah, totally.
I love the fact that we have passive revenue streams that just pay me every month and I don't have to do anything for it.
Yeah. Another niche that I kind of stumbled into is barber shops. I have one right next door to me. And so Italian Angelo, let me cut your hair. I will cut your hair exactly the way you want it. He's the coolest dude on the planet. Angelo. He's got a barbershop. He's since retired, moved to Florida. Not funny, and his grandson now runs it. But I insured him right out of the gate as soon as he moved in, because I was before him. And then he's like, oh, I know all the barbers in town. I'm like, sweet, let's go talk to him. So I got, a few hundred barbers. And they're not obviously ones that are going to, it's good, it's barbershop money. So,
listen, man, here's the way that we set it up. And I don't know who you use for your program. We have a group out of Indiana or Illinois. Francis L. Dean is who set it up for us. Mm-hmm. But barbershops is one of them and salons is another. But the way that program is set up, we don't take a commission on the product. We write the product net, and there's a $49.99 service fee. So we're making $50 a pop on it. And if you think about it, man, you write 6, 8 of those a day, you're making $100,000 a year to do nothing.
Yeah.
But not to mention the fact, the beautiful part about it, and the one reason why I really like that model for the smaller, more transactional stuff, is we can get all of that information dumped into HubSpot when we sell those policies. Then we can begin to market to these people for their personal lines. Many of the salons and the barber shops and those things, you've got independent contractors that need their own policy to cover them while they're working in the main place. So you write all of the chairs, then you write the salon itself or the barber shop itself. Then you start hitting them for personal lines. The next thing you know, that crazy little barber policy turned into $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 in agency revenue because of the reach you got as a result of being able to meet that need.
Yeah, on just the barbershop niche that we have a 76% penetration rate on the personal line side. So it's our highest one of our niches. So you're right. It's just the foot in the door, the lead in.
People bust my chops all the time because, why they say, why are you screwing around with $50 wedding policies when you're out in the middle market? And I'm like, hey, here's the fun fact for you. As long as my ad spend is less than the revenue that I'm bringing in on these wedding policies, you're going out and paying for personal lines leads and I'm getting paid for them. Who's the dummy?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I've never paid for a lead.
Yeah, I'm with you.
As an independent.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. We haven't really done much either. We pay for the traffic to go to the quote bind issue stuff, but even then, my budget's so minimal. I don't think we ever spend more than $100 a month on ads on Google, and we're getting anywhere between 5 and 10 leads a day across everything that we're advertising for. So if I ever get serious and put real money behind it, like Nick would want me to, then that would be a whole different animal.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, listen, man, we're wrapping up on an hour, running up on an hour. I want to be respectful of your time. I appreciate you coming on and sharing some stuff. Why don't you tell everybody how they can get a hold of you? I'm sure people will want to reach out, especially those who don't know about IAOA. It blows my mind, the number of people I run into a week that I talk to that still aren't members. For as many as we have, there's that many more that aren't yet, and I do my best. I do my best to send people over that I run into that would benefit from the group, but also the mentorship piece. I cannot stress enough. You are not just getting through. You've got quality people that are willing to spend time with you that have a lot of experience in our industry and can give you great insight into what you could be doing to get to be able to further your career. Don't just skip over this section of the podcast. That's probably the most powerful thing that we've talked about that's going to change people's lives that hear this.
So just so people understand, IAOA is Insurance Agency Owners Alliance. It doesn't indicate independent. However, 100% of our members are required to be, well, obviously, number one, a Facebook user, so you can join our group. Number two, independent. And number three, the agency principal or owner or partner. You must have an agent ownership interest. So no captives, no carriers, no vendors, no staff. I get those every day that try to join, and we don't allow them. Only those three things. And independent and agency principal, owner, partner are a requirement. So if you're listening and you hear this and you'd like to join, simply go look up IAOA, search in Facebook. You'll find it instantly. Request to join. And you're going to get asked 3 questions about your agency and your ownership interest. And if you qualify, you get approved. We approve 1,000 a year. I disapprove more than 1,000 a year because we get lots of people joining who don't qualify. So we're very, very restrictive that way. And that's why our group is such a niche. We're not looking for it to grow to 55,000. There's only 40,000 independent agencies in the United States. We have 7,000 now. Most of them are PNC, but we do have some life, health, and senior guys benefits who are independent, and that's fine. They're all welcome as long as they're an owner, principal, or partner. So join the group or request to join. I'm the actual one who approves people, and I still do that. I've done that since day one. And once you join, you can jump in on the mentorship program. Super simple, free. Doesn't cost you, but a little bit of your time, and the return is just astronomical. As David, he's a big proponent of it. So definitely do that. And we don't have aspirations of growing to any certain level. It's not why we've ever been was organized. So if we're 7,000 members 5 years from now, great. We're good with that. We're helping those people, or they're helping each other, is what it really amounts to. I'm not the one helping. It's all our members who join in, and they all take a real collaborative approach. Those are our three principles: collaboration, selflessness, and innovation. So those are the three things that we strive to adhere to every day. And it turns out 7,000 people are interested in getting the same thing for themselves. So yeah, terrific. So best way to get a hold of me, you can get a hold of me through Dave at IAOA.com. And via email, you can hit me up on Facebook. I'm there on private messenger. Dave and I have chatted many times. And if you can't find me, you're a fool, because I'm on there all day long, every day. It's just part of running a business. I'm on my mobile like nonstop, that's where I am. You can find me on LinkedIn. You can find me on Twitter. You can find me on Instagram. You can find me. I'm not going to be on Parler, okay? Just so you know out there, people, I've decided enough's enough.
What a train wreck. Not that I'm going to get into the politics of it, but I saw everybody going over there, so I joined and I went over and I'm like, oh, okay. All of a sudden, I felt a need to go online and buy cases of canned goods and look for real estate in Montana. It was just like, this place is nuts. So
I don't even want to hear about it. Non-censored. Yeah. I don't even want to hear about it.
I don't have time to keep up with another thing anyhow.
No joke. Who has time for all that? There's a couple others that are similar. I'm like, oh my goodness. So yeah, you could search Parler all day long. Guess what? I'm not there. So, so be happy with that one. I got enough places you can find me. I can't hide. But that's the best way to get a hold of me. Email, Facebook, LinkedIn, any of those are prime. Twitter if you want. I don't tweet much, but I used to call it. And I don't Snapchat. I don't do that either. So.
Good deal. Well, listen, as we wrap up, I just want to thank you again, whether it was intentional or unintentional. Your vision and the leadership that you provide for our industry by having that group is unparalleled. I know that you impact so many lives that you may not even know about. You know about the ones who tell you, but there's so many more that probably don't come forward. And I know that I can speak on behalf of all of those people and sincerely thank you for everything that you've done. I know that it's made an impact to my career, and just look forward to many more years of being able to collaborate, innovate, and do so selflessly with you in IAOA, sir. Thank you so much.
Appreciate it very much. David and Kyle, you guys do a great job for the industry. Keep it up.
Thanks, man. We'll talk soon.
You've been listening to the Power Producers Podcast. You can follow Killing Commercial Insurance on Facebook and YouTube. And if you want to take your game to the next level, check out our book, The Extra 2 Minutes, and our website, killingcommercial.com.